I guess we're here, folks, again. It's good to be with you. Nancy reminded me our phone won't take any text or phone calls while we're on this Facebook thing. And any kind of questions, if you type them in somewhere, I think they go to the bottom and Molly or Derek will get them. We'll take care of them later. So anyway, maybe we have an interesting place to begin. There's a lot of things that we could talk about in this life. So maybe if I start with quiet, because it's clear to me that this whole thing is about an opportunity. The opportunity is to slow down and find home again. Be with family and people. To know the circles and communities around you and actually recreate and build community again. If you have no garden space, find garden space or support local people that have gardens. And so even in cities, if you have 25 square feet of green grass, grow food, not grass. It's much more productive. And we'll learn slow, people, all of us together, can create support groups to help answer your questions when it comes to gardening, when it comes to preserves, and how you take care of things. So that's a great step there that we have the opportunity to work on because we're right at the beginning of spring. So maybe that's step one. And we're not ever going to cross that bridge in this short bit of time here, just right now, but we can cross it in a little bit. And then perhaps the other part is about accepting our responsibility, if you will, to this whole piece. And it's not about being guilty of anything. It's about accepting what we have for just what it is and let it be. It's not to ignore it, however. It's to make conscious, real decisions to take care of your life. And then the other piece of that is to not look at this as an enemy. To not look at this as if you have to kill it or destroy it. That has been a fatal mistake throughout history. And if we start on this earth itself, a lot of language is about to conquer and control. To conquer is to take over and then have tight control. Control never works. It doesn't work in anything. It was never meant to. It is to be a part of and one with. And that actually comes from a dualistic thinking process. And this world is that it's a pretty dualistic split between the mind and the heart. So you can say this two, but these two need to be one. This one is the director. This is a facilitator. In that order, we have a life. When you reverse this order, there is no life. This thing all comes from our life was being driven from here, not here. We need to go back to the heart. We need to go back to one. There's no two. So the whole idea of creating, I don't know, blame is interesting. However, forgiveness is a much greater tool. Any pain I suffer, I've caused myself because I was there at that point in given time. So I can't blame anybody. And it doesn't make, how do you want to say, love creates accountability. We are accountable for our actions and the reactions they cause. Attraction is an interesting tool. We can attract to us the greatest beauty that life can ever imagine, or we can attract to us the very thing we don't want the most. So attraction has a two-way street tied to it. And when we cease to look forward to see, then we cease to see. What we really need to think about right now is, before we make great big steps in this world, is to look forward 7 generations and see what kind of change that's going to create. We are working for the children in the future, not us. So we and us world, that's so important to us, which still gets us back to community and unity. We need to build community in small circles of people having little gardens, beginning to understand how to manage food and do things well. That part we can help one another with, and even the rest. So if we get back to dualistic thinking, which says to destroy or kill what is facing us, the very dilemma you run into with that is it always turns into a curse. So environmentally, we can say we pretty much inundated the predatory species on this earth. But it never worked. There's some information now that's factual and actual, and it's really worked well. In the national parks out west, I think in Montana, they had a huge erosion problem. They also had an overpopulated deer people problem. Well, that dilemma is simple. The deer browsed everything bare, which created an erosion problem. Once they introduced the wolf back, the deer population came into balance, the erosion problem ended, and so basically we need those creatures in this society. They're important to us. It's about understanding the life and purpose of all the creatures, all of the plants. We call them people, the tree people and the plant people. Like you might say, the four-legged, the winged, and the fish in the sea, the stone people, the sky people, and it continues on. The next piece of that you might call invasive species. The world said, well, they're taking over. They moved in, yes, but we're the ones that created the space. They're just filling the space, turning it green. This Earth's intention is to be green. When we open a space, it fills it up. And so, well, what are we going to do with this? Well, we don't need it. Well, it kind of turns out, in 2 spaces, one of them is Japanese knotweed. Japanese knotweed does work on limes, and is very effective. And it seems like Japanese knotweed may have, or may be very helpful in the virus issue. That seems to be rising. I don't have a lot of information there yet, but it's coming. And then there's a saltbush out west. Basically, the human race inundated the ground, and it's barren. And the saltbush come in, but lo and behold, it's bringing water to the surface, which you need the most. The more you deforest this planet, the drier it gets, to the point where you have a desert. A good example of that is the desert of Maine. It was a farm a long, long time ago. Now it is a pile of sand because it was over-farmed. You burned it out. Or I should say the past burned it out, but here we are in the future, considerably doing similar things. So it's about looking really deep and say, okay, this plant is here. I actually planted Japanese knotweed on this small farm up back in a place that if it moves, it's okay. However, I would say right now it's in about a 50-foot patch of ground, and it hasn't moved for, I don't know, 20 years. It's amazing food. I call it poor man's asparagus. It's up before the asparagus. It's awfully tasty. And so it's great food. Turns out it's beautiful for ticks too. So there's a dual benefit here. And so I think if we looked really deep and hard at these things, we would all find purposes. And I think that's part of what's going on here with us. And another piece of what is happening to us is it's about saying hello. Who am I? And what is my purpose on this earth? Have I been running so fast that I have gone by it? Have I been running so fast that I am so stressed that I can't see anymore? And at this point, we have time. We have time to stop. We have time to contemplate. We have time to see what's in front of us and what's here, what's right now, and see what's really important to you, what's important to us, which we haven't done. So all of these things are things we need to address. If we put this into a prayer, the prayer is actually for love, peace, and kindness upon this earth. Love brings balance. If you try to destroy something like this, what happens is the gene pool splits. You get this part. The next time it comes, it's a little bit bigger, and you got to start all over again. You don't want to do that. So the best way to go is to begin to embrace what you have in front of you. And by embracing it, we begin to bring it back into balance. To embrace then is to join hand to hand, heart to heart, every single day, all over the whole earth in prayer. Ask for nothing, not to destroy anything. The prayer is for love, peace, and kindness to reign upon this earth. That will help create balance, and it will lift us out of the murk and mire. That is one great step. And if we go back to dualistic thinking, it becomes interesting because we can play with it while we're at home now, whether we have a little tiny apartment or we have room to move. Either way, we have time to think it. So when you think, we think in twos. This language, not ours, all language is dualistic. Right and wrong are dualistic. Good and bad are dualistic. Up and down are dualistic. He and she are dualistic. I am Ray. My Nancy is Nancy. So I don't call her she, Nancy. Ray. And it's about not looking. What is not dualistic. What is beyond right and wrong. It sees what is. When you see what is, you will find the opportunity to deal with it. In a real way. I got a cramp in that foot. Anyway, so the dualism doesn't work. It has never worked. Maybe one of the greatest struggles we will ever find in our life is that we are already one with God. Or whatever word and whatever religion you're from, or whatever belief you have, whatever word you use is completely okay. It doesn't matter. We're already one. The world searches for enlightenment. It searches for realization. It searches for oneness. How do you find what you already are? That's kind of like parking your car in the front yard and walking outside in the morning, going downtown looking for your car when it's sitting in the yard. You don't do that. It's really about waking up and seeing what's in front of us every day of the week. To embrace life for life. To hug them children for who they are. To bless them and to give them life. Teach them to be humans. Teach them to be real people. Teaching is through kindness, not brutality. So then the dualistic thing is always one thing is opposing another. Again, love has no opposite, it opposes nothing. Love has no need, it needs nothing. Love is, that's who we are. Love is who you are. It's about recognizing who you are, that you are. Every one of you came with a purpose on this earth. No one will fulfill your purpose. It's your purpose. And so what do you dream? What do you love? What is it you really ache for? I'm not saying it's going to come out that way. However, it's what you dream of being. Are you happy? If you aren't happy, why? Maybe we need to stop now and look at peace and happiness in a dream. What did you dream of being? How do you feel? If you're overloaded with stress, try this. And you can spit in my eye if you would like. Stress is self-created because we do not know how to set down and stop and figure out what we need to put aside or when we need to say no. Enough is enough. No more. Well, can you do that job? No. Well, when can we do it? We can't. Somebody else can do it. You give them some names. That's delegation. You give them a circle of people that they can go to that can do the same job. It sets you free. You'll be happy. So it's like, how do you deal with stress? By looking at it straight up and saying, now how do I dissolve all of this? Most of the time, by letting go. It's like you pick this up and go, boom, there goes that one, there goes that one, there goes that one. I guess we're not going to do them anymore. And when the company asks you for 10 more things than you can do, you smile and say you need to hire 2 more people to do this job. If the company refuses, maybe you need to move on. And then maybe they'll wake up. And that's an instance where money doesn't give us life. Money doesn't make us happy. It won't buy peace. It won't buy happiness. It will only buy stuff. Fill your bank account. You can't eat it. So it's really a system of exchange. It is fair and equitable exchange. Beyond that has no more value. It's saying thank you for a piece of land or food or whatever we are sharing. That's all. In a fair and equitable manner. That doesn't mean gouging. Something real. So when we begin to look at all of that and put it together, we begin to move forward someplace where we can actually sit down, and maybe I have to sit down someday and look in the mirror and say, well, Raymond, where are you headed today? And does this feel right? And if it don't, why? Well, then why are you doing it? Well, I have to. Well, do I have to? Or do I need to question it and change something? So far, I found in my life it's always about change. Move things around. And once you move them around, they settle right down. So, a dualistic mind thrives on all of the things that don't work. And it creates this part right here. So when my finger's pointed at the little camera doodad here, because I can't see you, you can see me. But anyway, my finger's pointed out there. However, if you look, there's 1, 2, 3 pointed back. All right. How can you do it? It's like, forget it. This works much better. It's like where there's a problem, I know I'm sitting in it, and I need to address it. Moi. And if we have a problem, we need to sit down together and be really, really, really honest. And put your frustrations on the table. And be clear about them. It's not about blaming anybody. It's about figuring out why they're there. So now we have a great opportunity in front of us to be kind of sitting at home with short walks, the little journeys, to figure these things out. And if you have a yard with anything green in it, go study the grass. Look at the base. You're going to find all the little tiny creatures like ants and bugs are starting to rise to the surface. You see the very beginnings of plants. You may not quite know them yet, but if you keep studying them, you begin to recognize the ones you know. And if you don't have a book, and you got a computer, you can Google them. They'll find pictures, and all of a sudden you'll recognize. What you'll begin to do is recognize your own yard for the beauty in it. And then you can take that yard and turn it into a food garden. It turns into something beautiful. And if you had neighbors all get together and share, say, well, if one person can grow one thing well and you can grow another, you do that. Well, when fall comes, you share all these things. And you find ways to store or preserve. So what happens is you become friends with your neighbor again, the one we didn't know, that lived right beside us. How come? You know, in the old days, we used to sit down and have tea for no other reason but to have tea. Well, we could use an excuse. Well, it's too hot today. We have tea. Well, we did. We have time. And so that's kind of what's important to us, is those things. Life is simple. The truest part of this is life was meant to be simple and practical. That we left behind a long time ago. And you have to admit that we created what we have before us today. Beyond the virus. All of the tension, all of the stress, and all of the rat race we built ourselves. Now, why would we do that? You have to ask yourself, why would we do that? We wouldn't. I can think of a short story because it's mine and I actually owned it. As a guide on rivers, we had often rivers appear, you would do them in 7 days. Well, one particular river we did in 7 days, and I set it up the way the old boys did, and they always ran a motor, but I never ran a motor. And I began to see stress in people, and then they were tired and wore out at the end of the 7-day trip. It was supposed to be a vacation. And I could also notice my own inner stress. It would creep in little tiny spaces, and I could tell. Generally, I'm at peace with the world, and I wasn't. And in short, after one particular trip, I came back and I talked to Nancy about it and told her what I felt like and what it was like. And she looked at me and she said, well, is there any way we can split this trip and make 2 out of it? And I thought about it a second and I said, well, yeah. We could split right here in the middle pretty near. We could do the river in one half and the lakes in another half. 2 7-day stretches, or a 7 and a 5. Well, we did. Happy, happy, happy smiles. No stress, no stress, no stress. Funny time. Even a layover day. And on layover days, we played games. So, what it really is, it's about education. And the hard part is, I have to own my own stuff. So if I get stressed, I need to look at it. Say, wait a minute, what are you doing? Now, why are you doing this to yourself? Well, if he's stubborn, he won't admit a thing. But he finally learned that the mule technique doesn't work. It gets worse. So then we go over it, figure it out, and change. And I think that's one thing that we all need to do. And then get out in the front yard with the children if you have children. And explore the grass. Explore the garden. If you have woods and trees, explore them. It doesn't matter that you know or you don't know. If you have a book, take it with you. Look on the computer and see what you can figure out. A little bit at a time, you'll come to know some of these things. And later on, when the dust settles, we'll all get together, or those of us as can, and all over the place we can find people. I have a really good friend in Cleveland, Ohio, that knows all the plants and all the trees and all those things. And right there in Cleveland, he can help an awful lot of people. So those kind of things, and any of those things you want to know, you put a thing down there, and I'll plug in an answer for you. I can hook you into people here and there. Because I can't do them all. I'm here in Maine. He's in Cleveland. I know people in Minnesota, Colorado, California. Folks, we can make community grow so we become people again. Community people, happy, and we talk to one another. And the children become happy and smile. So it makes the day kind of graceful. And I don't know, without getting awful deep, if we really want to go there at this moment, in this manner, I would like to create something far deeper than this, but I don't think I want to do it on Facebook. And I'm not sure how to go about it. But we could go really deeply into what you call a dualistic mind, because that was created by the human race, and it is not real. It is really false. But I think maybe that's quite a bit to think about for a little bit. And perhaps that is the very thing that would help you the most at this point in time. So I guess I would like to leave you with that. And if you have questions and thoughts, if you can I think Molly will find them, or Nancy somehow.
Call her.
Nancy will call Molly, and I will answer what we can. If we can't get them all answered and you think about questions, let me see. I'll get an email for you. You email them to us and we'll get them. And I'll ask Nancy for the email because I don't know it myself. And I apologize for that, but you're talking to a dinosaur. Oh, by the way, I do feel like we cracked out of the eggshell and have gotten dried off, but we're still pretty fuzzy. And so while she's gathering questions, think about love. Love is something you can't define. It's nearly impossible to describe in physical words. And we could describe it, every single one of us, and every single one of us would describe it different. And no one's description is wrong because it's their description. But the one thing about love is it always will support the truth, but it cannot support sandcastles. It cannot support falseness. It cannot support judgment and greed. It doesn't work. It supports life in its real form, and it supports balance. You might want to consider thinking about this. Eden is outside your front door. It's time for us to rebuild the garden. That is one of the greatest opportunities we have before us right now. And get to know your neighbors. At this moment, you can do it on the phone and have little chat sessions. And then go into your own backyard and find some things to do. Play games. We used to kick the can. We'd grab a can, get the kids to go kick the can. Make little stick games with sticks with the kids. Make little tripods with the kids to see who stands the longest. Do silly little things or find other games to play. Make up your own games. Let the kids help you make them up. I used to take the kids, I tell you one game we did, I have helped kids learn to camouflage and their parents happened to be with them, but I couldn't get them involved. So I had the kids aside and we told them this little secret. I took them down and we showed them how to pack the leaves and the mud on, and they were doing really good at it. And now I said, when you get really good at it and you feel right, you go up and give your mom and your dad a hug or whoever's there and bring them down and let them give you a hand. And when they get there, you help them join in. We had a great party. Everybody was camouflaged. And it's odd. Everybody was happy. That's what life is about. So anyway, why don't you give us a minute? I'm going to finish my tea. And Nancy's collecting a question or two. What you got? Can you read them?
That was from Molly.
Molly. Talk about prayer in every breath and peace with every step. Oh. So anyway, prayer is an interesting topic. It came in. So prayer is with every breath, and peace is with every step. What I'm saying is a conscious breath will get you centered here. And every breath you take becomes gratefulness. And every breath that's exhaled becomes peace. You begin to walk in gratefulness and peace. That's a prayer that continues on and on and on, and it doesn't stop. And it's so simple. So one thing you could call it is a conscious breath. The breath in is a gift of life to you. The breath out is your gift back to life. You do that as often as you think about it. And when your mind runs off, you say thank you. And then you think about it again and you go back. And if you have children, play a game with them. Have them focus on the breath. And you can try this again. You have kids. The breath in is inhale, exhale. And the kids get excited, especially when they get bubbly. So that the two there become love and kindness. So that was one about the breath. It was with every step.
That's it.
That's it. So if we to work on that, that's a job all by itself. So try doing that a little bit every day. a little bit of breath work. The breath in, the breath out. And think about peace with every step and every breath. Love and kindness. So prayer with every step. Peace with every breath. Aho. Thank you so much for joining us.
Tell them they're not good.